Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny and I'm here at the allotment in the park today. And I just wanted to take a little bit of time to chat to you a bit about one of the winter jobs that I am going to get on with today. I've been putting it off for weeks because it was raining, it's been a bit miserable, and I've just not really had, I guess, the sort of motivation and energy to get up and get going. But I've decided today, I was like, no, let's get to it, let's get it done. So the thing I'm going to be doing today is actually planting some green manure. Now, if you don't know what green manure is, it's effectively where you grow a crop with the sole intention of not harvesting from it and chopping it down instead, which I know probably sounds a little bit crazy, but it can be a really good way to add organic matter to the soil if you need it. Now, over the last sort of 10 months or so that I've had this plot, one of the things that actually has been quite difficult has been moving organic matter, both greens and browns, onto the site because I don't have any storage. It's been quite overgrown in places. So although I do have a compost bin that was sort of full of rubbish actually when I first got here, so I spent loads of time clearing that one out. I got a second compost bin, but I'm just struggling to actually fill them so that when it comes to the end of the season, I can actually cover my vegetable beds in a decent layer of compost. I don't want to spend loads of time and loads of money buying compost in every single year. Obviously, if you have the resources to do that, that is totally fine. But between the plot that I've got here at the park and the plot 15 by the house, I don't really want to be just forever spending money on more and more compost. So I had this idea that actually what I might be able to do is grow something that I can use as compost instead. So I'm going to lift up the black plastic from the end of the plot by the rhubarb. It's not been used very much this year at all. I tried to grow a couple of squashes and a cucumber in it. So it's had 3 plants in it basically over the course of the season, not very many at all. I'm going to lift that up and I'm going to plant broad beans there instead. There's a couple of reasons for me planting broad beans. The first is that they are really nitrogen rich. So they have these little nodules on their roots that make nitrogen plant available so that plants can actually use it. That will be really helpful for just improving the soil in that section anyway. Nitrogen is also available when I eventually chop them down. I will actually leave them in place. I'll let them rot down on the ground to form part of that layer of organic matter over the top. My other reason for growing them, to be honest, is that they are brilliant for growing in the autumn or even into winter, depending on where you live, because they will germinate at -2 degrees centigrade. So they are really, really hardy plants. And for me, because I'm not going to be growing them to actually get beans off them, I don't need to worry particularly about how well they grow over the season. That's not really going to be an issue. I need them to grow enough so that I can chop them back down again in, say, probably February. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to clear that plot, that little piece of ground. I'm going to plant out some broad beans and I'm going to cover them with fleece so that the birds don't eat them all before they have a chance to germinate. So yeah, I'm going to cover them with fleece and that should be pretty good. And I'm hoping that between the green matter that I can grow and chop down there and some of the browns, which for me will be things like cardboard and definitely leaves. I'm sure you can see all these leaves on the ground behind me. Plus side of being in a park surrounded by trees is that there are loads of leaf. So leaf mold's super easy to make here. So I'm hoping that between the browns and greens that I can get on site, I'll actually be able to start building up a supply of organic matter that I can use. There's no way, right, that I'm going to do that within a year. There really isn't. Just got to be realistic about it. Even with doing the green manure, the chances are I'm probably still going to have to bring some compost onto site next spring in order to get things planted. But it's a good start, isn't it? And that's really what counts. So I'm just going to start it. We'll see how it goes and I will track the progress with you guys along the way. So yeah, let's get to it. So I've cleared the black plastic from this end here. So I'm just going to clear away the rest of the leaves and bits of debris that are on here. Got quite some weeds at this end, the other side of the rhubarb crowns. But actually, I just wanted to show you this down here. It's all these little white roots. So it's actually, this space has been covered since probably the end of March, and still there are weeds that are persisting in this space. So I am going to actually dig these out before I plant the broad beans in. The other thing you'll notice that it's actually really uneven, which in all honesty I'm just not going to worry about. Effectively, as I build this area up, I'm hoping that I will be able to create enough organic matter to fill the two sort of dips that are at that end by the bucket. And over time they should level out on their own. I mean, I probably can level it a bit, but honestly I'm not really that fussed about it. Okay, so I didn't actually manage to finish planting any of those beans because it got dark really quickly, and it just wasn't, I could barely see, let alone film. So I've tried to come back over the last 2 days and it is once again pouring with rain. So I think the reality is I'm just going to have to work in the rain today. I am going to wait for it to kind of like dissipate slightly. I'm sure you can hear it in the background. It is just absolutely torrential. So I'm going to go hide in the shed for a bit, hope that it stops, and get those beans planted. So I finally managed to get the beans in the ground. It's such a blustery day, but I'm really glad that it's done. I've covered it in some fleece. I didn't have quite enough beans to do the whole section, so at some point I'm going to have to order some more, get them delivered and come back out and finish them. But I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far today anyway, and I'm hoping that they will grow well. There are quite a lot of squirrels around here, which is why I've covered them in fleece, not just because to keep the ground warm, but mostly to stop squirrels pulling them all out and eating them. But I'm probably going to have to come back and check, I reckon, tomorrow, because it's meant to be really windy over the next couple of days. And although I have got wood and stones around it, there's a definite chance that it might just blow off. So I'll come back and check that probably tomorrow. The next thing I'm going to do is pull a couple of the parsnips. I don't really have very high hopes, to be honest. They are at the end of the plot by the compost bins and by the trees, and I expect that they probably haven't had enough sun. But you never know, do you? So let's go pull them and see what they look like. Okay, so here are the parsnips. We have had varying levels of success, from very round ones here that haven't grown very deep, but their tops have got big. We've got these skinny ones that have grown pretty long but really haven't put on any bulk. And then we've got these beauties here, which have grown to be some really lovely parsnips. One of the reasons that I picked the parsnips now was mostly to do with the trees. So I've realised that because there are trees right next to my plot, as the leaves were falling, the tops of the parsnips the leaves were starting to get really mushy and just sort of rot away, which meant I then wouldn't be able to pull the parsnips out. I did have real trouble with one of them, which had no leaves left at all, but the parsnip was still in the ground and somewhat hard to get out, particularly if you were trying to pull them no dig. I did get them all out. I've been using what I call the tooth technique, which is if you wanted to pull a tooth, you have to push it down first. And the same is true with parsnips if they're quite long. If you push on the top of them first and push them quite hard into the ground a couple of times, they then pull out much easier. I don't actually know why that works. There's probably some really good sciencey explanation. Feel free to tell me in the comments. But either way, they come out brilliantly. I think the thing I have definitely learnt is that all those parsnips that look like, I guess, what you'd call normal supermarket parsnips, they were all grown at the side of the bed that gets the most light. So I'm definitely going to move them further up the plot next year. But I'm so happy, honestly, positively full of joy. I have some actual parsnips and I can't wait. It's Sunday tomorrow, so I'm definitely going to be putting those in with my roast dinner. Right, I'll see you later.